today's silver move is absolutely historic, except I don't see this as anything compared to where it's about to go. Hi there, and welcome to this week's astrology overview. My name is Aura. I am your astrologer and crypto astrologer. That comes out on Tuesday. But today I want to just focus on. So Monday tends to be the silver day because silver opens in Shanghai at about 4 p.m. U.S. time, or 3 or 5, depending on where you are in the U.S., on Sunday night, Sunday evening, Sunday afternoon, whatever. So silver opens, and then the the LBMA, the British silver market, opens like in the middle of the night for us, and then in the morning we have our market open. So upon the opening of the Shanghai Metals Exchange yesterday, we jumped a couple dollars, right? We went from 80 to about 82 and change, and then by the time the LBMA, the London bullion market, opened, we jumped a couple more dollars, and we're at about 84. And now currently we are sitting somewhere over $86. And as I record this, silver is 86.72, and gold, let's look at gold. Where's gold? Gold is at 86.27. These are new all-time highs for both metals. So I did have this period of time as being in my timing report, which I provide for members. I had this period of time as being the next sort of leg up on silver, and also things that are going on in the world stage. We had, as soon as sort of the new year came in, we had a ship on the oceans that was captured by the U.S. and it was it had no flag. And then as soon as it was captured, or just before it was captured, they flew a Russian flag. So for the timing report, I also had continued international conflict here in January, and we had that big event at the beginning of the month. Fortunately, it hasn't heated up any further, but to me, a lot of what we're seeing is actually a battle over resources and a financial battle. Okay, that's kind of what I see it as being, and that started in 2018 when I wrote an article about it saying there was a secret hidden financial battle and that was going to increase, and now we're headed into kind of the critical zone of that worldwide financial skirmish that's going on. So yeah, this is going to be kind of a dramatic week for silver for sure. And get ready, brace yourselves, because you're going to see $10 moves, $50 moves, even $100 moves very, very quickly. We're going to see massive jumps in the price of silver. Why? Because it's necessary. So there are other expected things that can happen in the silver market. Things like rule changes on the COMEX. I mean, they've already done the margin hiking, which was expected if you understand how those markets work. There's also going to be like more rule changes in the markets and things of this nature. But none of that matters because the physical market, none of that matters because the physical market and the paper market, which is the COMEX, have completely separated. And the COMEX is no longer really relevant, not even to coin shop owners, because they know that price is not what they are going to pay to replace the metal. So you can't, that's why the premiums are really high. And these prices are not coming back down again. That's the bottom line. Some people, I mean, all the news is saying, oh, it's a bubble. Oh, it's this. No, it's a worldwide deficit in a necessary mineral that is the foundation of advanced, industrialized society. So it can't go back down. It has to be used. They might try and come up with some uneasy, what could happen is that they could make deals among different countries, but they're not going to. And the reason is there's battles between these countries, and that's not getting any better. Okay. It's not going away. So there's literally no way for what's being said on the news to be true. It's literally a complete lie. It can't be true. It's against all principles of reality, rationality, and intelligence. It just won't work. It's just not going to happen that way. So having said that, what else is happening with the astrology this week? Well, there's a lot of mental conflict, right? Like I just talked about with the media not telling you the truth. Well, there's just going to be a lot of so what are we dealing with in the world? We're dealing with a conflict against denial, okay? The media, the official sources have been lying to us so long that people who are holding on to their comfortable little benefits in life are going to get mad at those who are telling them things that are not convenient for them, an inconvenient truth, right? In facts, inconvenient realities. And so you have a group of humanity that doesn't want to look at what's really going on. Okay. These people are very attached to the way things have been. They feel very comfortable and they don't want anything different to break through their little reality bubble, because then they would have to rethink their strategies and the way they've been. Okay. This is happening in the housing market in a very, very dramatic way. The way this is showing up in the housing market is that we have a lot of people who have a lot of equity in their homes who won't sell. They might want to sell, but they can't, or they won't, because interest rates are too high. They bought the houses at a low interest rate. And so now they have maybe a lot of equity in their homes, but nobody wants to buy those houses for these inflated prices. The prices, I mean, literally the housing like contracts have dropped like 10% in January from last year. January, now this time of year is slow for housing, but 10% drop means that it's slow. It's dead. There's like nobody buying any houses. And I already knew this from last year. This was already completely slowed to a total crawl in my area. So there's no houses. And I actually talked to a real estate agent and I said something about distressed housing. She's like, oh, they're all distressed. Everyone's a distressed seller. Everyone's trying to sell. Everyone's trying to get out. Of course, the distressed sellers are on the market. Everyone else who thinks they have equity, who thinks they can keep their houses in this bubble and keep these values, isn't selling. And they've taken their houses off the market and they're waiting, rage quitting their listings, and they're waiting for better prices, better opportunities to sell in the spring. And I'm here to tell you that's not happening. Unfortunately, if I had a house, I'd be trying to sell it. In fact, I talked to several people who have homes who talked to me about they were going to list in the spring. And I was thinking to myself, well, good luck. I hope you do well. I hope you're okay with it. Hope you sell your house and get your money out of it, because things are not selling right now. It's just the nature of the reality. Okay. And people in the trenches actually feel it. The news is going to tell you one thing and people are going to walk around believing whatever they want. But this conflict of reality versus fantasy is coming to a head in a lot of relationships. You're going to see a lot of loggerheads, a lot of people clashing and butting heads this week about information and ideas and thoughts. And there's certain people you just can't talk to, right? I'm not trying to tell everybody what I have to say out here. I'm really just trying to tell the people who are smart enough to understand, who have done some research and who want a heads up on what's coming, because I can give you that with the astrology. So having said that, there's a lot of tension in communication this week. So watch out and don't get into it with the neighbor or the cousin or the whoever it is that has different opinions. Just don't have those conversations. Just kind of exit those conversations, because it could get into a pretty bad fight this week because of what's going on with the astrology. And you don't want that. Nobody needs that. Also in my notes for this month, for January, I had written down that there's going to be more stuff coming out about the digital ID. I saw a story about it not too long ago about how they're getting ready to ramp it up and roll it out. And I've always seen it as happening in the spring. So this spring is when they're going to start trying to roll out the digital ID, get people to do it. There's a lot more going on sort of behind the scenes. I have a video coming out called The AI Problem. And you guys should subscribe to get that video. I'm going to give you a different perspective on what's going on with that. So there's that. And then we have this weekend, Venus moves into Aquarius. So there's a big shift of mood, and the mood is less serious and a lot more, it's sort of like Aquarius season is when we have award season. So we end up having a lot of glitzy, kind of glamorous awards happening during Aquarius. And so now Venus is also in Aquarius. So we're going to have a lot of very, very glitzy, very shiny, very awards, very like all the group getting together and saying, oh, you're the most fabulous one of our group. And you're that's all this sort of, social, congratulations going on. Very big social, and also can be social dramas actually coming up starting this weekend and moving into next week, where people's reputations get hurt, and people, reputation becomes a big issue around Aquarius season. So we're going to see a lot happening with that, and a lot happening around our values related to reputation and how we're seen. In my opinion, people who talk about other people are usually lying, because frankly, I've had people talk about me behind my back and say things that weren't true. I don't know why. I hadn't done anything. It's like one of those things where if you're out there speaking down on someone else, you're the person who's the problem. That's essentially been my experience in life. I've never ever, in the case of crimes, that's a little different, right? But I've never ever in my life heard of anybody who's speaking bad about someone who wasn't the problem in the end, and who wasn't the one who was actually causing all the gossip, all the drama, all the underhandedness, all the, social chaos. Okay. So these things are going to start to come up as issues starting this weekend and moving on for the rest of the month. And social drama, it's just a thing. I don't participate. Anyway, so be aware that like people, it's always the person who's spreading the gossip who's the problem. Always. It's always the case. They're always the one. And by the way, they're gossiping to you about someone else, then they're going to gossip about you with someone else. So that's why gossip is such a low vibrational energy and not worth the time of day. And I exit as fast as I can from those conversations. And I recommend everybody do the same, because it's just a waste of energy and a waste of mental space. We could be focusing on something a lot more constructive and getting something worthwhile done with our brain power, our talents, our abilities, life in general. It's a waste, in my opinion. Anyway, that is kind of the cap on it for the week. Is we're going to head into a very socially conscious, energetically, somewhat precious kind of energy. There can be great things happen in social dynamics. I'm not saying it's not okay to go hang out in groups and stuff like that. I'm just saying that be aware, because as soon as you do, there's always going to be this. There's always going to be this. This is always part of it. Okay. Is the rumor mill, which is behind the scenes and going on always under the surface. And I don't know. You can't really, there's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. But that's the shift of mood that's going on here at the end of the week as we move into next week. So stay tuned. Come back tomorrow for the Bitcoin crypto astrology forecast. And I will see you then. Thanks. Bye.